Sit down and strap in because you're about to experience driving television.
Welcome to Driving Television. I'm Lacey Elliott.
And I'm Zach Spencer. On today's show, we're looking at an award-winning electric vehicle.
And did you know that electric vehicle sales are increasing here in Canada?
They're going up, but they still only account for less than 1% of the overall market. Today on the show, we're looking at the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada's Green Car of the Year, the Soul EV.
This is Driving Television with your hosts, Zach Spencer and Lacey Elliott. Also on today's show.
If you're in the market for a performance sedan, Lexus is hoping you'll have a look at the hot new GSF. Closed captioning for this program is brought to you by Nissan. Innovation that excites. Looking for a new vehicle? Check out the new Wheels.ca, Canada's automotive lifestyle destination. Sponsored in part by Toyota Canada.
Mercedes has AMG, BMW has M, Audi has RS, and Cadillac has V. Well, now Lexus is fully embracing the letter F with the introduction of the all-new GSF. Based on the GS mid-size luxury sedan, the GSF takes things to a much more aggressive level with 467 horsepower and a 5-liter V8 engine, pushing all that power through an 8-speed automatic to the rear wheels. This engine is normally aspirated, bucking the trend to smaller turbo engines. Lexus hopes this 1,830 kilogram sedan will be lean enough and powerful enough to attract buyers of cars like the BMW M5. In fact, the GSF is lighter than the M5 and the Mercedes E63 AMG. With standard 19-inch wheels framing orange Brembo brake calipers and featuring a torque vectoring differential, Lexus thinks that this Nürburgring-tuned sedan is more than enough to take on the German dominant brands. Styling is dramatic and functional with a lower and wider stance than the regular model. Lexus has not announced a release date or pricing yet, but expect to see this vehicle sometime in 2016.
This is the all-new Mazda CX-3, playing in the new category of subcompact crossovers. It seems that automakers are going smaller to fill the demand for new utility vehicles. Other contenders are the all-new Honda HR-V, the Jeep Renegade, Chevy Trax, and even the Kia Soul, which will be updated with all-wheel drive to become a direct competitor. Now, I think that Mazda has nailed the design with this CX-3. It's based on the subcompact Mazda 2 car platform. That car isn't out yet, but what they have at Mazda is what they call Kodo Soul Motion design, and I think they've incorporated it into this vehicle to a T. The way the front grille flows with chrome wings into the front headlamps is striking, and this top GT gets HID headlamps. Well, the pricing for this CX-3 starts at just over $20,000. To get the middle GS trim, you have to spend $24,000. Now keep in mind, if you want all-wheel drive on those lower two trim levels, it's going to cost you $2,000 more. But the top GT that you see here starts at just under $29,000, and it comes standard with all-wheel drive. It also comes standard with 18-inch wheels. If you get the bottom two trim levels, you get 16-inch wheels. Because this car is based on a subcompact, it has subcompact dimensions, especially in the back seat. The rear seat is rather upright and the legroom is limited, not for young families with car seats or teenagers, more likely single people or empty nesters. The rear cargo is also small, but the rear floor can be removed for a deeper space. But all that crampness is forgotten when you get to sit up front. I would say the materials and the way this CX-3 is laid out is a 10 out of 10. There's a 7-inch screen and a control knob in the middle, stuff usually found in premium cars. The base model comes with a backup camera, Bluetooth, cruise control, and air conditioning. The middle GS is where you might want to shop because that's where you get heated seats. The GT adds navigation, two-tone seats, and paddle shifters. Now, one of the things right out of the hopper that I like about this vehicle is the fact that Mazda went to a bigger engine. It's a 2-liter direct injection Skyactiv engine, 146 horsepower, 146 foot-pounds of torque, which makes this vehicle feel like it has adequate power. There's nothing worse than driving an underpowered car. When you compare it to the all-new direct competitor to this vehicle, the Honda HR-V, it's down on power. It has a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder engine with 141 horsepower and less torque. In addition, it comes with a 6-speed automatic. There's no CVT at play here, and it works very well. The power is crisp, passing is easy, and the car is just perfect for a city runabout. There's even a sports setting for the transmission. That, with the handling Mazda bakes into every car, makes it small, agile, and it doesn't feel underpowered. In addition, the refinement around harshness and noise is very good, especially for a vehicle that starts just over $20,000. Now, this all comes together to make this a vehicle that's going to put a smile on your face every single time that you drive it. And it's perfect for what I'm doing right now. Changing lanes, in and out of city traffic, small footprint, easy to see out of, you sit a little bit higher, and this is totally going to be attractive to baby boomers, empty nesters, kids have gone, they want a crossover, they want to sit higher, they want all-wheel drive, they want to have enough power, and all the latest luxury amenities. This is going to be a nice choice. And also for single people or couples. Not sure it's great for families, but anybody that drives it is definitely going to have fun when they're doing it. So the pricing on this Mazda CX-3 is a little bit tricky. Now, a lot of people are going to transact at that middle GS trim. So that's $24,000 plus $2,000 for all-wheel drive. That brings it up to $26,000. Now, this GT might actually be the better buy. Spring an additional $3,000. You get the 18-inch alloy wheels, you get the HID headlamps, upgraded interior, and more features. Regardless of which CX-3 you pick, they all drive very well. Just don't get stuck in the back seat.
Looking for a small car? All the reviews are available on our website at drivingtelevision.com.
The Kia Soul could be considered the automotive equivalent of Brussels sprouts. You either love them or you don't. But if you've ever had the chance to try one, chances are you were pleasantly surprised. This is the 2015 Kia Soul, but with a twist. It's the all-new Soul EV, which means it's 100% electric. And we get to take this one for a spin. The Soul EV is Kia's first all-electric vehicle launched in Canada. And since its introduction in late 2014, it has attracted a lot of attention. Not only has it won numerous accolades, it was also given the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada's Green Car of the Year award. Clearly, the Soul styling has a lot to do with its success. Yeah, it's a little quirky, but it also is very functional. It's what's known as an urban hatchback, so it has room inside, but it doesn't take up too much room on the road or in your parking spot. The Soul EV's look is inspired by the 2012 Kia Trackster concept. That includes the unmistakable box-like silhouette. Furthermore, the two-tone exterior paint is reserved for the EV. Up front, you have an exclusive front fascia that includes a larger grille area for the charging port. You'll also notice the words Eco-Electric on the sides and the rear of the Soul. The 16-inch alloy wheels, which aren't really my favorite, are coupled with a specially engineered set of super low rolling resistance tires. Inside, the Kia Soul EV has its own distinct flair. There are white accents throughout, but what you won't find is a gas gauge. In fact, that's replaced by a range indicator showing you how far you can go on the rest of your charge. When you want to know what's happening with your vehicle, all you have to do is pop over to the display screen and it'll tell you what's going on. I really like the cabin of the Soul EV. Why? Because you have both the functionality of the touchscreen along with the tactile buttons. And if you're going from the gasoline version to the electric, you actually won't notice too much of a difference. When it comes to interior space, you don't have to make compromises even though it's an EV. Because the battery pack lies flat and underneath the floor, it doesn't take away too much legroom in comparison to the gasoline version. because the battery pack sits underneath the floor, that brings the center of gravity down. And in turn, the vehicle is quite fun to drive and very agile in the corners. There's a total of 109 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque. If you're charging up from zero, it takes just under 5 hours with a level 2 charger. If you're using the same type of plug as your hairdryer or TV, that could take up to 24 hours. When you're driving the Kia Soul EV, you'll notice something right off the bat. It's very quiet. But just because it's quiet, it doesn't mean it lacks pep. In fact, you have that 210 pound-feet of torque straight from zero because it is an EV. The estimated driving range of the Kia Soul EV is 149 kilometers, but that's dependent on your driving style and what auxiliaries you're using while you commute. For example, air conditioning. The starting price of this EV is just under $35,000. And depending on where you live, you might be eligible for provincial rebates to bring that price down. Whether you love it or love to hate it, the all-new 2015 Kia Soul EV is an electrifying vehicle. It's an innovative step forward for the Korean automaker, and it definitely put a smile on my face, and probably Mother Nature's too.
For an extended review of this and many other segments, go to our website at drivingtelevision.com.
This is the 2015 Toyota Yaris, and it's pronounced Yaris like Paris, not like yard. Trust me, because we've been corrected several times already. It takes a while to get it, but after a while, it sounds right. Kind of like this car. After a while you get it, but initially it's a bit confusing. This subcompact car has some things that make it look a step behind the competition, but one area that Toyota got right is the styling. It's edgy and has big personality, something a small car can use. The front grille is oversized, and the top SE version gets LED marker lights and fog lights. This unit also gets a rear spoiler and 16-inch alloy wheels versus the 15-inch steel wheels on the other trim levels. Pricing starts at about $14,500 and gets as high as $18,000. Now, the small vehicle market in Canada is very competitive, especially with the introduction of micro vehicles and cars like the Nissan Micra that start at an incredible $10,000. Now, yes, the Toyota Yaris is bigger, but pricing still has to be competitive. The interior is best described as basic, for basic transportation. The dash and doors are fitted with plenty of plastic, though there was an attempt on the front of the dash to cover it with a soft panel. The steering wheel tilts but does not telescope, something buyers should try first. You'll notice the 6.1-inch display, and it's standard on all the trim levels, and it's a bit of a surprise, especially at this price. But it's a nice thing. You've got Bluetooth connectivity, you also get 9 standard airbags, power windows, and doors. If you go into a higher trim level, you get options like air conditioning, nicer seats, and steering wheel mounted radio controls. There are a few things that have not been updated for 2015, and that is the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, as well as the transmission choices. There's still a 5-speed manual and a 4-speed automatic. Now, this is where potential buyers are getting confused. With the competition going to more gears in their automatics or to CVT technology, why does Toyota stick with a 4-speed automatic? The answer, always from Toyota, is that reliability trumps technical advancements. That's why Toyota also uses a 4-speed in the base Corolla. Now, we suspect that this unit costs less to make, which is a big consideration for a value-priced car. The 4-cylinder is still rated at 106 horsepower, and surprisingly, it kind of comes together. It works seamlessly with the 4-speed and cruises on the highway. The steering is light and will be very popular with city driving because you can place it anywhere, and it's a nice balance for commuting. Now, I know this is going to ideally be used for a little commuter car in the city, but what actually blew me away is how great it was to drive on the highway. Yes, it's lacking a little bit of passing power, but for the odd road trip, it's actually quite a comfortable vehicle to drive, even at higher speeds. The 2015 Toyota Yaris is an updated version of the last model that came out in 2012. Now on paper it might look like it's underpowered and it still only has a 4-speed automatic, but I think that's what Toyota's banking on. It's a proven, reliable vehicle in a segment of the market that's very price conscious. It's a solid vehicle with a bold new face.
Looking for a small car? All the reviews are available on our website at drivingtelevision.com. Production vehicle for the Driving Television crew is provided by Nissan Canada.
Now, electric vehicle sales account for less than 1% of the Canadian market, so not many people are buying electric cars, but it is growing, and that means that the majority of people have never driven an electric car, maybe even yourself. So we have the BMW i3 back on the show. We did review it when it first came out. Go to the website, drivingtelevision.com, to watch that. So we got it back so we could talk about what it's like to drive an electric car. Let's go for a spin. All right, let's talk about how an electric car differs from a gasoline car. The first thing you notice is how quiet it is. There's no motor, there's no exhaust, and that really limits the amount of noise that comes into the cabin. All you have is tire noise on the road and wind noise, which makes the car very quiet and comfortable. You can enjoy your tunes and conversation in the car, no problem at all. Also, because the engine of a regular gasoline car is one of the heavier parts, they're always trying to get it as low into the car as they can to improve handling. Well, what you have in place of that with an electric car is a battery pack, usually placed along the floor of the vehicle, which makes the electric pack the lowest and heaviest part of the car. That keeps the center of gravity really quite low, and most electric cars handle remarkably well. This BMW i3, after getting in it after the initial review a year ago, I'm pleasantly surprised by how much fun it is to drive. Now, the other part about an electric motor versus a gasoline engine is torque. Torque comes on at 0 RPM. That's maximum torque at 0 RPM. You get a lot of pace very, very quickly. There's no gears either. It's a direct drive. The power goes to the electric motor and turns, and you don't have any sensation of the gears changing. Then there's the braking. I left my foot off the accelerator and the regenerative braking starts to brake the car, and in this BMW i3 and others like the Tesla, it'll brake the car all the way down to 0 kilometers an hour. And you learn to drive the vehicle using the throttle for acceleration and for braking, and you rarely, if ever, touch the actual brake pedal. That means you're not using the brakes. And that's the other thing about an electric car is maintenance. You don't have the gasoline engine, you don't have to change the oil, the coolant, the transmission isn't going to fall out. So maintenance is very, very low on an electric car. Well, are there any negatives? Well, there's one big one, and that's cost. And all of the electric car manufacturers, or all the mainstream manufacturers that make electric cars, are trying to produce cars that don't cost that much. And that's a real problem because the batteries are expensive. That's the most expensive part of an electric car. So if they can get the cost of the batteries down and produce cars that are much more mainstream in terms of cost, then they'll probably sell more. And the other main issue for many people is range. We're starting to see cars now with up to 300 kilometers of range. So I think as that gets perfected, we're going to start to see more and more people adopting electric cars if they can get the price down. Now back to the i3. The one thing about this BMW i3 coming in roughly around $45,000 in Canada is it actually is, if you're thinking about a premium brand, pretty good value. You get a car that has great handling, very unique looks. It has the capability to put in a range extender, which means they put a very small gasoline engine on board to help extend the range if you start to run out of electricity. It's got a very modern and funky cabin, and as I mentioned off the beginning, getting back into it again after a year, it reminds me oh so much of what a great little machine it is. The power and the torque are just so much fun. It's a wonderful little machine.
The automotive industry has long used racing as a way to prove their technology in their regular road cars, put a vehicle on the track, and show the public how it performs at 100%. Now, usually these are sporty cars to begin with, but Nissan has helped to develop a series around the Micra. In 2015 marked the very first season of the Nissan Micra Cup, a one-make race series in Quebec that has been embraced by local racers. The main reason is the cost. Racing can be very expensive, but the Nissan Micra is the least expensive car sold in Canada at just under $10,000. The base model Micra S version is then stripped of its interior, the suspension and exhaust modified for racing, but the engine and the rest of the car is all stock. Jacques Dehaye, the series founder, tells us that the average private racer should expect to spend about $20,000 for a car that's fully equipped with a roll cage and ready to go racing. With 109 horsepower in such a small car, you could be forgiven for thinking this race has no action, but the opposite is true. This series is very tight, with drivers jockeying for position and cars proving that they can be tough when they get bumped off the track. The Nissan Micra Cup takes place over a series of 6 weekends, with the final weekend in September. The reaction to this race has been fantastic, with amateur racers wanting to get involved all across the country. And with this year's success, they might be expanding the series into Ontario for 2016. And let's hope so, because it looks like a blast. That's it for today's show. If you missed any of the show today or you'd like to watch any previous episodes, you can go to our website, drivingtelevision.com.
12 seasons, most of it in HD, some of it in standard definition, but the new videos are all there for you to watch. There's longer versions, there's shorter versions, and there's versions that go up long before they get to air. So make sure you check out drivingtelevision.com. That's all the time we have for this week. We'll see you next time.
Safe driving.
Production vehicles supplied by Toyota Canada. Want more? Check out drivingtelevision.com for expanded reviews and more automotive stories.